I bring that vast knowledge of how those things work, what it looks like to be at a very small shop, what it looks like to be at a larger shop, and have all these people. And guess what? More assets, more problems. It's not a matter of just because you have a larger asset that means that you're not going to experience some of the same challenges. I mean, I still talk with my colleagues who are there, and the challenges on having resources and having the amount of people to do the things very much exists at a large asset size credit union as well. It's the impact looks different, right? When I went to a conference, I was taking 1/3 of the organization with me. That doesn't
Right.
happen in a larger shop.
Yeah.
So how do we continue to make sure that everything can continue to get done? So that's what I believe I get a chance to bring to Firefly.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, was that a Biggie reference? More assets, more problems? Have you used that before, or did you just come up with
It
that on the
just
spot?
came to my head. I was just thinking about it, like, I gotta figure out how to do that. But it was just like, I'm like, yes, that's right.
Yeah, we gotta copyright that saying, more
Okay.
assets, more problems. I love that. Oh, that's so good. So I'm really excited to welcome the Firefly team to the Credit Union Nation podcast. We have Rebekah Larson, Ashley Beach Reid, and Kimberly London Plant. I'm Tom Sakash, and I'm the host of Credit Union Nation. And we're excited for another great episode with this fantastic team to showcase what Firefly Consulting does for credit unions across the country. So I thought just to start and to make sure people are aware of what Firefly does, I thought I'd kick it over to Rebekah, who's the founder of the company, to kind of share a little bit about herself, her credit union story, and what Firefly aims to do as a company for credit unions. So take it away, Rebekah.
All right. Thank you, Tom, and appreciate this opportunity to get to visit with the credit unions out there and bring in our awesome team to visit about what we do. I started in banking when I was 19 years old, working in college, just wanted to get a day job and ended up falling in love with the idea of financial education and seeing how much benefit I could gain and my family and friends just from understanding how finances and credit work. So I stayed in the industry, migrated to a credit union about 7 years in and stayed there for 13 years, ended as a senior vice president of lending at the time. And throughout that time, I led a lot of different projects and initiatives, mergers, conversions, you name it, any project. You end up being the lead, you kind of keep being the lead normally, which I loved. And I noticed, throughout that and in visiting with other credit unions, some of those projects are really hard for our smaller credit unions to carry forward, just to carve out enough time to really identify the appropriate vendors who will work with their asset size or core, and make sure then, once a vendor's been selected, there are enough resources appointed to ensure that the project kicks off, there's enough testing, configuration, all those timelines are met. And then after after the project comes to an end, being able to ensure that that cultural implementation is given enough attention and there are procedures and everything's carried through so that it's successful. So I founded Firefly Consulting almost 3 years ago, June 6th of 2022. So we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary. And throughout that time, the company's grown a lot. I've been able to bring in some awesome people to help me out, who a couple are on this call here today. I'm very grateful for connections and found Ashley through you, Tom. So appreciate that always. And we'll always give you a thanks for that. And Kimberly through Ashley. So everything comes full circle, but we're located all over the United States. I'm in Montana, Ashley's in South Carolina, Kimberly's in Louisiana. So we're spread throughout and we do a lot of our work remotely, but like I said, coming in to help at the beginning of projects to really get things kicked off and find the right vendors. I'm working throughout the project. We also do a bit of system configuration and have some specialty in different systems.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to have Ashley and Kim jump in a second, but I forgot to mention that the story about how we first met, which was I forget who first referred you to me, Rebekah. Was it Scott? Was it Scott and Allison? Or I feel like how did you get referred to me?
Because I had met Walter Merkel, who introduced me to Denise, and then Denise told me I needed to talk to you, and you were
Okay.
working for. But Scott was my strategic planner at my credit union for several years. So I
Oh, he
did know
was.
him before. He was my favorite. I'll tell him that. Don't tell everybody. Well, I guess I
Yeah.
just did. But he always had a really good down to earth approach from his background, and enjoyed working with him as a strategic planner very much.
Yeah, he is everyone's favorite, that's for sure. For very good reasons. He's excellent at what he does. But actually, I think the story goes is that you reached out to me and we scheduled a call. This was
Mhm.
very early on when Firefly started. And we jumped on a call and you kind of told me, what you do and what Firefly aims to do. And I was like, and I think you were kind of looking for, ways to try to connect with more credit unions, to spread the word. And in my former position at America's Credit Unions, I was in a good position to do that. And I think I informed you during that call that I had a week left working for for CUNA, for America's Credit
Yeah.
Unions. And I was like, hey, this is a great idea. I'm sorry, but I'm leaving the company.
Something
But
like
I'm
that.
so
I do
glad.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm so glad we've stayed in touch. Obviously, in my new role and working for your credit union partner, we still serve small credit unions across the country. So, there's still so many ways that we can partner and stay connected. But it was just a funny conversation and introduction to begin with. Um, and so when you first started Firefly, Rebekah, where was the need? Did you identify a need among credit unions for this type of service? Like how did you figure out that this is something that you could address for smaller credit unions or credit unions in general?
Just in visiting with different credit unions, everyone has the same issue, which is time constraints. They've got staff that are spread very thin, wearing a lot of different hats, doing a lot of different roles. And then when projects come in or initiatives, or they're just, coming into the company and these systems are already in place, a lot of times, like I said, things weren't configured as well as they could have been along the way, or there wasn't proper documentation. People left, that tribal knowledge leaves with them. And there's just a lot of kind of scrambling and finding inefficient workarounds. And so what we found is either coming in to help them really break down their current processes and identify opportunities to fix that system configuration, or just provide that extra set of hands. So the type of projects we do are so across the board, it's hard to describe because we, help a lot with project management, configuration, system implementation. We're also doing a lot of work with procedures, policies. Ashley just helped one of our credit union completely revise their BSA program. I mean, we're really, because of our backgrounds, everyone that works with me started as a teller many years ago, and we worked through tons of different positions. So we have a very vast experience pool that we can pull from. We've got people that are specialized in accounting, project management. I have most of my career was all in lending, so I get really excited about doing those type of things. Ashley's run a small shop before, and I know Kim has tons of experience from credit unions and working at TruStage and CUNA Mutual. So I think I got a little off track with your question, but
Yeah, no. I mean, I think when I think about the challenges facing small credit unions, it's always time and people, and so that you're obviously filling a very important challenge there. But the other thing is the compliance, right? Like, I mean, if you're able to provide compliance support at a cost-effective rate, like we're seeing that more and more across credit unions, especially small credit unions, where there's a need for someone who has the expertise around compliance and regulations, but you don't necessarily need or can afford a full-time person. And so if you can, hire someone at a fractional capacity, it makes a whole lot of sense. And so there's always going to be a need for that, right? Compliance is never going away. Regulation is never going to go away. Even with an administration like the one that we have, that is, interested in cutting regulations in a significant way, there's still going to be a major need for compliance professionals. And so, that's such an important role that you can play. And so you built the organization, and you're starting to fill some of these roles for credit unions, and then gain some success, and now have the capacity to bring in folks like you mentioned, like Ashley and Kim. So I'm going to throw it to Ashley and Kim. What are you bringing to Firefly, and what are you excited to help credit unions with in your capacity with Firefly? And we'll start with Ashley first.
Okay. So, I had the pleasure of meeting Rebekah. So very much thank you, Tom, for just saying, hey, you should meet Rebekah at Firefly. I was sharing with him what it was that I was looking to do. So my background is I've been in credit union space for almost 20 years and spent the first part of it working at a large asset size credit union for 14 years before I left and went from 5 billion in assets and over 200 employees to 3 employees at a $21 million shop, and started to even have my eyes open to small credit union space. And what I wanted to do as I was transitioning into being in the consultant space was be exactly what it was that I needed. I needed to have a trusted partner who would have the conversations with the various vendors who are all like reaching out and saying, hey, we have this new product or service that we're looking for, and or you guys need, and this is the new regulation that's coming out and we can support it, and vet through some of those calls. I needed someone who could do project management and help to lead, take the idea and the system requirements and then bring it to fruition so that we can move on to the next thing. I needed someone to literally review policies and procedures and make updates and make changes and make sure that it was even filed and categorized the way that it needed to be. I needed someone to help me talk through what my business strategy was, what our strategic plan was going to be, support committees at the right minutes. I mean, all of the things I needed support with. And with having a staff of 3 people to get those things done, we needed to serve our members, we needed to be out in the community. It was just a challenge because I didn't need a full-time person to do it, but I needed someone who was fully competent to do those things when they came up. And so that was my main thing of what I felt I had the ability to bring to other small credit unions, having a fully competent partner who understood how all of those things were connected and how can I help you get to the next side. Now, I do have a background in just systems in general. I've worked with Fiserv products. So I've had the ability, I've gone through core conversions now a few times, and started out with the largest one, which was to DNA, which is Fiserv's product. And then went to, when I was at my smaller credit union, we did a core conversion to Portico. So I had the space where we had project managers and we had testers and we had everyone who was working on these different things. And then went to a space where I had to do all those things myself. And I was like, oh my God, like just down to mapping GLs and all those type of things. So
Yeah.
that's what I bring. I bring that vast knowledge of how those things work, what it looks like to be at a very small shop, what it looks like to be at a larger shop, and have all these people. And guess what? More assets, more problems. It's not a matter of just because you have a larger asset that means that you're not going to experience some of the same challenges. I mean, I still talk with my colleagues who are there, and the challenges on having resources and having the amount of people to do the things very much exists at a large asset size credit union as well. It's the impact looks different, right? When I went to a conference, I was taking 1/3 of the organization with me. That doesn't happen
Right.
at a
Yeah.
larger
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
So how do we continue to make sure that everything can continue to get done? So that's what I believe I get a chance to bring to Firefly.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So first of all, was that a Biggie reference? More assets, more problems. Have you used that before? Or did you just come up with that
It
on the
just came
spot?
to my head. I was just thinking about it, like, I gotta figure out how to do that. But it was just like, I'm like, yes, that's right.
Yeah, we gotta copyright that saying, more
Okay.
assets, more problems. I love that. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, it is interesting. Back in the day, when I first started in my small credit union role at CUNA, like I would have conversations with other people at the organization. And being like the small credit union person, my focus was obviously on credit unions, typically with under, 100 million in assets. And I would talk to some of the other engagement consultants at CUNA about like the issues facing $3 billion credit unions or $5 billion credit unions. And they would often say they had scale challenges. And I was like, scale challenges? I mean, are you serious? Let me introduce you to this $4 million credit union with 3 employees that Ashley's running, or the $20 million credit union. That is scale challenge. But the fact is, if you are a regional credit union, this may be an unpopular opinion, especially for a small credit union leaning podcast. If you're a regional credit union and you have 5 billion in assets and you're competing with the big banks and the fintechs, they have the scale and the resources that do, make make it comparatively seem like you have some scale challenges as well. So I do understand that concept. More assets, more problems. Oh, that's so great. Well, Ashley, it's awesome that you're on the team. I mean, it is such a cool partnership, because I do think that, the two of you have very complementary skill sets. But also, you share a lot of knowledge too and background. So, always happy to connect great credit union leaders and friends. And now you have a third member of the team here in Kim. So Kim, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing for Firefly as well?
Sure. I too have to say thank you. Thank you, Ashley, for introducing me to to Rebekah. So as you said, everything goes full circle. But I am a credit union industry veteran. I've been in the game, as they say, for 30 years. I started what I would consider the local level at several of the large credit unions here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Served in every functional area of a credit union, and I used to tease that I've done everything but facilities management. And before I left the local level, I did facilities management as well. From the small credit union, I'm sorry, for the larger credit unions in Baton Rouge, I moved on to what I consider the state level. I started working at the Louisiana Credit Union League, now Luminant, and helped flesh out some of that shared branching and EFT servicing and card services and all of those things, and improve their efficiencies and did some projects for them in that regard. And then I was tapped on the shoulder by CUNY Mutual, now TruStage, and I spent the last 16 years there. So my background is in all things credit unions at every level, and now also insurance. So whether it's for the B2B or D2C or B2B to C, I've had the pleasure of doing all of those things. In the midst of all of that, I do a lot of community service and do a lot of volunteerism. And throughout my career, I solidified my career by getting my project management professional certification. And so I've served in that capacity too, in a lot of leadership roles and a lot of nonprofits. And so what I bring to Firefly is certainly my credit union industry knowledge, the network of people that I know, the different roles and responsibilities I've held, and then the skill sets that come from project management. Also, I'm a huge supporter and very involved with AACUC. And so in that regard, volunteering there where I can and learning from them where I can, from the Renee Sadie, right? So just well-rounded, and learned a lot about you, Tom, and got a chance to really meet you in person. And I enjoyed that back when we were in Atlanta for the Small Credit Union Summit. And through this entire process, I'm starting to realize the value of maintaining our small credit unions. I've had a lot of experience and exposure, and a lot of friends that manage these credit unions, but I just really probably underestimated the value that they have. And so partnering with Rebekah has just been a godsend, because we're serving a lot of people, helping them to clean up some messes they didn't intend to make. And then, and it's an old adage in credit union world, well, we've always done it that way, so we'll just continue doing that. Well, it's helping to be a thought leader in that regard, and that, yeah, what got us here may not get us where you want to go next. And so I bring that facilitation ability to, let's think through these things. Let's take a step back. Let's reevaluate our why. But by and large, I love what we do, why we do it, and who we do it for. And I am here for the long haul. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I'm curious, with your experience with TruStage, I think of my time on the board of Madison Credit Union here in town. And, every year the bond comes up for renewal, and we go through each line and we say, man, how much are we paying for cybersecurity insurance now, and all this stuff. So is that a service that you would like to consult credit unions with at some point, like helping them sort of think through their insurance strategies? Or, is that part of the future?
It's in my tool belt, if the need ever presents itself. I know right now our focus is mainly helping with Meridian Link and some of those types of technology projects, but we never know where Firefly may go. I would defer to our lead Firefly, but certainly I would be willing to help credit unions in any capacity. Just filling that need, because we realize that our resource constraints are a thing. And if we have some skill and ability, we may not have ultimate expertise, but we can certainly lead thought in something.
Sure. Okay. All right. So, I think I asked Rebekah this question back in Atlanta at the AACUC's Small Credit Union Summit. But I was kind of hoping if someone from the team would share sort of an example of a current project that they're working on, and one that they're really excited about, one that they're having fun doing, but also one that's really impactful that will ultimately lead to a great outcome for the credit union. Just to give folks kind of a real strong visual of the type of work and how the process works when you're working with a credit union. Does something come to mind that you'd be willing to share?
I'll start. One of the credit unions that we're partnered with, it's super exciting. At first, it was a little intimidating because this particular credit union, they had recently undergone an implementation that didn't quite go the way they had anticipated. And so now it's like, okay, we thought we wanted this and we thought it would do that, but it's not really shaking out in the wild like we thought it would. How can we fix this? And so we have had these series of discovery conversations, just finding, okay, what is the current state? What is the desired state? How can we get you there? And that fact-finding mission, again, initially intimidating, and then being a new Firefly, I was like, oh, I don't really even know them yet. But this part is so super exciting because not only do I get to know them, to get to understand their culture and see them live their mission, but now we get to fix some things that were broken. And that particular project has been, and it's going to go on for a while because you find things. And once you fix this one thing and you adjust this dial, then you might need to turn this knob now. And so just helping them to think holistically and realize, though, you can't boil the ocean. Let's take it one drop at a time, one bite at a time, and we'll get there. So that's just one example of the many things that we're doing for credit unions. And I think the CEO appreciates it as well as the staff that realize that members are still needing to be served in between all these things. And they do have their real full-time jobs in addition to these projects that come along.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I know you all also serve, as a group as subject matter experts in different technologies, cores, Meridian Link, Meridian Link, I think as was mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about, kind of what you bring to the table from that standpoint and how you help credit unions optimize their relationships with those technology platforms? What does that sort of support service look like?
I can jump in on that one. Like I said, we are I guess we could say system agnostic, is that will help with any system. But we have a specific expertise in a couple SMEs who aren't on this call right now that have very specific system knowledge. We have a former Meridian Link implementation analyst who worked with Meridian Link for several years and is just very, very skilled with all things configuration. I myself have been through several conversions with Meridian Link in my former role, and then through our work with Firefly, and bringing in Kimberly and Ashley to help me with some of those on project management pieces. But what we're really bringing to the table with those type of projects, as well as, like I said, Ashley and I are in the middle of a Access Soft Tech project right now too, is we'll come in and make sure the project stays on track. A lot of times what happens is, there'll be what I always like to say is the salespeople tell the credit unions there's going to be no lift for the credit union. It's going to be very minimal, it'll be really easy. Then literally as soon as that document is signed, there's a kickoff, and surprise, we need 20 to 30 hours a week from the credit union to get this project successfully completed. So it just either doesn't happen, happens haphazardly, or other things are sacrificed at the credit union, which could be the members, member service, staff. There's a lot of really negative repercussions when things aren't resourced appropriately. So we come in and help them with keeping the project on track, but we like to go a step further than other consultants likely do, is that we'll actually dive in and do the user acceptance testing with them. We're actively performing the configuration updates with them. And to Kim's point, with that's the Jack Henry Scimitar client that she was referring to, we have a lot of people who've been through an entire core conversion, and we've become integrated into every department in their credit union that touches the core. We've got a couple contracts like that because there are so many things that just weren't configured optimally. So they have inefficient workarounds. They're struggling every day. One of the things that really fills my cup, and I hear from my contractors every week as well, is just how much it makes you feel so great. We hear, you're a godsend, you're an angel. It's like this credit unions are so grateful. We had one CEO tell me their staff person cried after the call because we were able to help them with their job that much with one call and one fix. And sometimes we find out it's just a missing piece of education during that call, that once we talk to them and explain how the systems actually work, there's nothing wrong with it. It didn't need change. They just didn't understand. And what we bring to the table that's a bit different is when they're going to those support analysts or the programmers at the software companies, they're support analysts and programmers, finding someone that actually worked in a branch and worked in, sat in their seat and performed tasks with members is very, very hard to come by with these companies. And a lot of times their analysts are super new because there's just so much attrition and different, people job hopping with our new way that life works, I guess, for most people. But what we can bring is we've sat in their shoes. So we come in with that programming and configuration expertise paired with, we sat in the branches for combined, I think now with everyone I have on the team, we've got 100 years in the credit unions. There's just an immense amount of experience we can bring to help them with those configurations throughout the project, or once it's been set up, like I said, coming in and, for lack of better terms, helping them clean it up, make it better.
Yeah.
But
Is
what's
there,
really, oh, go
oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Tom.
No, keep going, keep going.
I was gonna say, what's really fun with our company is probably 90% of our contracts are set up on what we call a block of hours, which allows us to pivot our direction every week. So with one of our credit unions, where, like I said, Ashley just rewrote their entire BSA program. We're helping with policy implementation, procedures. Meanwhile, we're reformatting their system configuration, their LOS, helping them move some initiatives forward. We're doing lending strategy training, just kind of all over the place. So it allows us to be an extension of them in more than one piece. We have some credit unions that have brought us on just for one project. And even those, everyone has renewed. I haven't had any of these contracts not renew, and they keep going longer terms because they keep seeing how much we can bring to the table in different areas. And we love it because we get to become part of their family and an extension of them. And they know whenever they need us, they can call, and we're going to be able to pivot, shift gears, and help them in different areas.
So when you're talking to a credit union initially, are you sort of positioning the company in a certain way? Like, do you lead with technology, and say, and we also now have all this expertise and support services in these other areas? How does the initial contact usually go? And what are credit unions typically looking for first from you?
Usually they're either starting a project or they've had one delayed, or, the people that were supposed to lead the project left the credit union. So a lot of times it's project based where it's starting, and that may be system project. It may just be an initiative. We have had some small contracts where we just came in and helped the little bit where they needed us. Like we had one in the middle of a core conversion that just needed some help cleaning up loan purpose codes. They had 2,000 loan purpose codes because staff could freeform, and they needed that cleaned up to move into the new system.
Yeah.
So sometimes data specific things like that, but a lot of times they're just starting a core conversion or a loan operating system deposit account service, and they're either stalled out or overwhelmed, or they implemented and it didn't go as well as it could have, and they need help to clean it up. So that's usually where the conversation starts. And then as that relationship is built, then we are able to expand and say, well, we also can help you with this. We also have expertise in this. And as that trust and rapport builds throughout the credit union, it just gives us more opportunity to, like I said, pivot and help in wherever they need us to help, which is
Yeah.
really fun for us because we get to do something different and new every week. And
Yes, yeah, it keeps life interesting, that's for sure. And there's a never-ending need for support across all areas of the organization for smaller credit unions. Ashley, you mentioned in your comments that you've gone through some conversions, and you've gone through conversions with Fiserv. We all know Fiserv has a tough reputation, right? Like, as soon as I entered this industry, someone brought up Fiserv and they called it the F word, and that's all you really need to know. They get a bad rap.
Mhm.
They still have a lot of credit unions
Mhm.
who use their system and their technology. Like, how's Fiserv doing? Like, I shouldn't say poor Fiserv, because I know that so many credit unions have a lot of really bad opinions of them for good reasons, like the support the customer support, not really caring, it seems like, about their smaller credit union customers. Totally get that. But they've taken a beating, and for good reason, but like, I don't know, you
Very
think
good
that,
reason.
yeah, maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they'll find a new pathway. So like, what's going on with Fiserv? Can they save their reputation in the minds of small credit unions?
Well, I think, one of the things that I've had the opportunity to experience is managing the relationship with like my Fiserv rep. So previously at the larger credit union, there were multiple steps that were involved in regards to like that relationship manager engagement. And so I immediately had my thoughts on Fiserv, right? Coming in. And so the first time I met with my relationship manager, I reamed him out. And, and he was just like, okay, I am here to support you and help you however it is that we can. And that really made a huge difference. So one of the things I will say is with the relationship manager, especially my main one that I had for small credit unions, they were intentional about showing up and being able to support. And here's who you need to contact. Now, in that, right, one of the things that I also shared is that I would call. Let's say if I had to call someone, and they would say, well, you have to put in a ticket. And I'm like, can't you just email the person? Aren't you all at fiserv.com? What in the world? Why do I have to hang up and dial another number or put in? And so that was one of the challenges that I had. But the relationship manager, so I can only speak on even for like cards piece and the management that I had in that is what made the difference. So I think for Fiserv, if they continue to create the space and the framework with making sure that they have the right relationship managers in place, especially for the small credit unions, that will make the difference. The other thing, though, we all may not like it, they have been recommending or only really pushing credit unions to go into products or the services that they have built. So all small credit unions who are on, I can't remember what the asset size is. And then it's not like they communicated that, but it's clearly it's either you're going to Portico or you're going to DNA.
Mm.
What that does is it does remove, the options for sure, but that means that they can then adequately put resources in place. So when I first came to the credit union, the small asset size credit union I was at, they were on Galaxy. For anybody who has been on Galaxy, that was my first question to my relationship manager. How dare you keep this credit union on Galaxy for this period of time? Like, how do you even sell it? And they're like,
Yeah.
we don't. And so then it made sense that the rep that when I call that 1-800 number to talk to someone about Galaxy, it was always the same two people. Well, of course, that makes sense. You're not even staffing for this. You're not even
Right.
thinking about how to make it better. So having it that it kind of like either you're going into Portico or you're going into DNA, which is where they're putting all their resources and focus, allows them to give a better product and a better service experience. So I think that there's opportunity as long as the credit union wants to go to either Portico or DNA.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good assessment. I'm interested because as part of our strategic planning work at YCUP, we try to provide a pretty strong overview of consumer preferences and in the financial services market. And I've been doing a lot of research over the past couple of weeks on just sort of the latest trends and what people are looking for. And not surprisingly, being a digital first and investing heavily into your digital services is extremely important.
Mhm.
Like the big banks, and this was sort of shocking to me, but maybe it shouldn't be. But the big banks and the fintechs are gobbling up like almost the entirety of the market share for millennials and younger. Like
Mhm.
credit unions are just losing in that space. I hate to say it. And so, that shows us that technology is really important. Your digital services are really important. Therefore, the core that sort of provides the foundation for all of that is really important. And if Fiserv, I don't really know much about Fiserv, I got to be honest, because I know so many credit unions that have gone away from them, over the past 10 years. But if they provide an opportunity to really stand out from a technology standpoint or to add all of the digital services that consumers and your members are coming to expect, it makes them important. They obviously have their issues. But if they could get their act together, if they could, improve their service to small credit unions, and maybe you can correct my conventional wisdom on this, if they provide sort of, one of the best, frameworks or foundations for technology and digital services, and please provide feedback on whether that's true or not. Fiserv, is still an important part of this industry. So curious to know your
Absolutely.
thoughts on that.
So
Um,
there are certain relationships and partnerships that they've established that make it a lot easier in regards to just the technology that's out there. Now, you could look at it one way. You could either look at it like, well, Fiserv has now bought out this particular company and now it's kind of under their brand, which potentially removes their ability to kind of pivot and be customizable for each specific client. Well, that is also the case, as well as it can make sure that once, if you are a Fiserv client and you do need these particular services, it is not a matter of starting at the very beginning of exploring what that connection needs to look like, what the technology needs to be. It's all already mapped out for you. So there's two ways that you can kind of look at it. You can look at it from the sense, well, I don't have the ability to then impact what my relationship may look like because it's all kind of inclusive in Fiserv, as well as especially, when you think about small credit unions, well, as long as you've done the work prior to me getting here and everything is connected, it allows for me to say yes and move forward in getting us stood up with the various things that keep coming up, whether it's now talking about, yes, what does it look like to engage? You have to on the front end, what does your mobile banking look like? What does your online banking look like? What presence do you have? And then how easy is it to do a transaction? So you can have all those things and it can be great. But if it takes you forever to open up an account and fund that account, you will lose
Right.
people every single time.
Oh yeah. Yes, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. And it is a little worrying, seeing some of that data that I've stumbled upon over the past few weeks. But I think there's an opportunity there. I mean, I think credit unions just have to make the right investments. It's not easy, especially for the small credit unions that we work with. You have a lot of different budget items that are pulling your budget in a lot of different directions, whether that's talent or facilities or compliance or technology. But I do think that if you want to capture the younger market, if you want to lower that average age of membership, and these are the folks that are going to be in their prime borrowing ages over the next 20 years. These are the things that they come to expect. And so whoever you use, whether it's Fiserv or another core, making sure that you have the capacity to make the right investments so that you can provide the best experience possible to your members, it's absolutely critically important. Even if you're a service first, in-person service sort of oriented credit union, because there are many credit unions who might say, well, our secret sauce and the thing that makes us stand out and the thing that differentiates us is the in-person, personalized service that we provide our members. And that's great. But is that sustainable? I would ask that question. And is that what your core membership or what you want your core membership to be? Is that what they're looking for? And is that how they want to access financial services in the future? So, kind of depends on the credit union.
Al-
Yeah. So that's
Along those lines, when you're
Mhm.
talking about when you're trying to decide on for a small credit union and you're making some decisions on what your membership is saying, a lot of times we focus on the people that we speak to, the people that we see, but that's not our only members. So those may be the voices that you have in your head. But when you start to look at who your actual member base, like the full membership base, and how do you support them, you can't just support the ones that you receive the phone calls from,
Mm.
right? That always call in or always come into the branch. That may be a small percentage of the members that you actually serve.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, I'm a big believer in feedback loops, but also, proactive outreach to get to exactly what you're saying, Ashley, which is trying to identify what the true need across the membership, not just the select squeaky wheels that you always hear from. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so wrapping up here on last couple minutes, I'm going to throw it back to Rebekah. and have her share just what her vision is for the next couple years for Firefly. And then most importantly, if you all who are listening are interested in getting in touch with Firefly, importantly, Rebekah, share how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So right now, our main focus is, I think Kim mentioned earlier, just getting out to help as many credit unions as we can across all of their different projects, platforms, policies, procedures. We have an excellent software company that we're partnering with that's really helping drive procedure efficiencies forward. So we have a lot of projects going in that realm. We have a lot of projects going in system configuration updates and a lot of Meridian Link implementations or configuration optimization after. So I see the company continuing to grow in that way. And then, as I mentioned before, having our relationships really branch out to that more well-rounded, we can help in every facet and becoming a part or an extension of the credit union team where they know that they can trust us, that we're going to be there and that we can be there for the long haul. We've had a contract recently renew for 5 years, which I think is a huge testament to that trust and rapport and knowing that there's going to be a need. There's always going to be a need, and having that outsourced help, whether that's 15, 20, 25 hours a month can be huge for them, because an hour of our time with the vast amount of experience we have coming back that's very focused without members at our door, board coming in to visit, we can get a lot done in a shorter amount of time. So that's where I see us really coming in and being able to help credit unions become more efficient, become more comfortable, and ultimately be able to better serve their members. So we're super excited to continue getting awesome testimonials from the credit unions we currently work with and identifying more partners to bring into our family. And the best way probably to get a hold of me would be if you go to my website, our website. It's www.fireflyconsultingllc.com. And right on the homepage, there's a link to my Calendly, so you can book a time to visit with me if you want to do that. There's also just a contact form on the contact page that will just shoot me an email if you prefer to start communications through that. And you can also just email us, or I'm on LinkedIn very actively. That's where we've done actually almost all of the marketing for Firefly has just been on LinkedIn and through word of mouth. So you can find me at Rebekah Larson or Firefly Consulting LLC and just look for the cute little Firefly picture. That way, it's our company. There are other Firefly companies out there, but the LLC and the little Firefly, the little blue Firefly, that's how you'll know you're on the right site and in the right LinkedIn area, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great. And we'll put the link to the website in the show notes once we post the episode next week. Well, thank you very much, Rebekah. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Kim. So much appreciate your time and sharing everything that you're doing at Firefly. Really excited to see where the company continues to go and grow. And thank you for your service and support of small credit unions and all credit unions. Yeah, let's do this again. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you.